G'day guys, Rukshan here. Thanks for joining me for yet another episode of Rukshan On X. I do this most days during the week. So if you guys joined in last week, you would have seen it's just me catching up with some of the news throughout, the day, maybe the week past and the weekend. I didn't do a Rukshan On X episode, so I might catch up with some news from the weekend. But it's very a casual news show, and I keep repeating this, but that's because X and social media platforms like X, which promotes free speech, the town square, and of course promotes independent journalism, is the future of media. The mainstream media is slowly dying, and it's good fun to be involved in doing this type of content because, a lot of us don't want to engage with news as it's been normally presented to us for a long time. So it's good fun. Thanks for all the yes, the music. I'm sorry for the drifting away magical meditation music. I will change it to something a bit more upbeat maybe, but I just put that in. That was just a generic music. Yep, someone said thanks to Elon Musk. Thanks for the comments as well, guys. As you can see, I like to have the comment stream going, and I'm going to get a bit harsher these days. I might start muting some people, and I'm very, not for censorship whatsoever, but I have been watching back some of the older episodes from the days gone past, and I have seen some very rude commentary that is probably verging on not being very nice. And I know, not being nice is all a part of this social discourse that we can have on certain topics, but some of it's quite abusive, so we don't need to have any of that. There is no particular topic. Kat was asking what is the topic. I will go through a few different news stories, mainly to do with, of course, Australia, my state here in Victoria, and then maybe some world news. Of course, I always cover some news to do with President Trump and the US because it's always fun for me to cover the lefties, the lunatic left losing it. I enjoy that very much. So thanks for all the comments. Someone wrote, did they bring lockdowns back? No, so, I know when a live stream from Rukshan comes on, perhaps you might be going back in time to yesteryear when Dictator Dan had us all locked down, but I do a bit more than that. Surprisingly, I've actually recently been live streaming a lot more of the protest events and different types of coverage that's happening in our city in Melbourne, and I'm really enjoying that. I've upgraded my live streaming gear, so it's very smooth now. It's not from my phone. It's done with multiple internet connections, so it's a very stable connection as well. And I'm enjoying the using some of that technology to bring these live streams. And maybe that setup might cost me a few $1,000s to put together, but it's really interesting to see how someone like myself, an independent journalist, can go out there and live stream an event to multiple platforms without any issues whatsoever. It just shows you how lazy the mainstream media is. Yeah, someone's saying it's heaps better. Thanks, Kane, for the comment. And I'll try to get some of your comments and answer some of your questions as well with some of the news that I'm covering. But first up, I actually have my AC on. I don't know if you can hear it. It's a very hot day here in Melbourne. I think it was like 40 something degrees, and we also always have the doom and gloom type news. Can you hear my AC? Let me know if you can hear my AC. Yeah, Wilson Law. Yeah, I'm going to talk about the UFOs and drones. Now, I have nothing of value to add besides covering some of the other discussions that are happening around this topic with these UFOs and drones, but I'm actually a drone operator as well. So I understand a little bit about how drones work, not military drones and not commercial drones, but just, regular or advanced photographic and video drones that people use. So I understand how some of that works. So first up, guys, yeah, it's very hot. I just saw this when I turned on to X. So a lot of my news actually comes from X. It comes from the people on X who are sharing news as well. And I'm not being lazy. And the reason that I'm doing this is because I love just sharing what other people are talking about on X as well, because their takes are very interesting. What's happening on X when people have a discussion about a topic, the comments, their actual takes on it is quite interesting. It's a really awesome way to actually engage with news that's happening. Someone's written, cool change has swept through. Yeah, I went outside. It was quite lovely, actually, but I've left the AC on just to keep the house cool. So let's have a look at this video from the news today in Melbourne. And I'll read the commentary from the individual after, but the hashtag is climate scam. Anyway, let's have a listen in how we've been reported about the weather.
Melburnians are sweltering through the hottest day of the year, putting school classrooms and our power supply under pressure.
The mercury soared past 40 in the suburbs and hit 47 in the state's northwest, but relief isn't far away.
Melburnians are
Yeah, I mean, there's a few other things about the weather. I'm not going to go into the news about the weather, but I feel like it is like a hot Australian summer. Uh, I've grown up almost my entire life in Australia, so it reminds me of any hot, scorching day. I don't know if there's any different experience for one of you guys that are looking at this, but it just feels like a regular hot summer. It was quite uncomfortable outside for a period of time when it was really hot, but yeah, it's just I feel like it's just summer. This individual's actually written. This is from YNWA. Melbourne, one day of temperature in the 40s and our power supply is under pressure. Get used to it. They'll have you believing it's not the unreliable renewables that are to blame. It's climate change and you having your aircon on for too long. So there is this tendency, right, with when they report this type of news, they will touch on the fact that everyone's using their aircon and it's climate change and we've got to do all these things about it. But perhaps the reason there's strain on the power supply is this change that we're having pushed onto us into this renewable sector of energy that they want us to use. So perhaps that's having the impact on this. Let me know what you guys have said. Let's have a look at some of these comments. I'll bring some of them up. Bear with me, actually. When I bring these comments, I have to read them. So there's a moment of dead air. Um, before I get to the climate comments, when do you think we'll see an alien drone invasion in Melbourne? I don't know. I don't know if the aliens would want to particularly come to Melbourne. Is there anything of interest for the aliens to find in Melbourne? They'll find a lot of graffiti. They'll find a lot of junkies. They'll find a lot of. Well, I guess they could study, the decimation of a city. Perhaps they could do a study on how to ruin a city. Maybe they can come to Melbourne for that reason. Yeah. Thanks for all the comments saying the aircon. You can't hear it. Thank you so much. Karen says we've had many very hot summers. Yeah. I mean, I can go back to the 90s growing up as a kid. I remember it being very hot. So I don't think it's very different to that back then. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Rukshan, say my name on your stream. All right, let's give it a crack. Muhammad Benama. There you go, mate. I said your name. Oh, what's this? Gonna need a new Rukshan dance video soon. It's been a while. I might do a dance video actually. Let's see. Not today. At some point. Maybe to challenge Raygun, especially since she wants to trademark and copyright some of her dance moves. Maybe we should challenge her. Anyway, guys, there's so many comments coming in, so it's hard to actually keep up. I'm going to keep going with my coverage. And the next story that I wanted to cover really just broke before, and that was to do with Moira Deeming and John Pizzuto. And we did the live stream, myself and Navid, we did like an emergency live stream on the day of the finding coming from the federal court. And then, of course, we saw after that John Pizzuto himself would not resign as a leader of the opposition, even though, of course, he cowardly acts of defaming. He's been found as a defamer of women, and I would say perhaps multiple women, when you consider the long history of the comments that he said about certain other individuals and people that were there at the Let Women Speak rally. Now, he's not resigning, John Pizzuto, but the Liberal Party in Victoria, it feels like there might be an internal challenge on his leadership because he's, of course, too cowardly to apologize and own up to the mistake of actually calling one of your own members in your own team, implying they're a neo-Nazi, literally, in the way that he carried out his media interviews and so forth. So this was just breaking a couple of minutes ago before I came online. So let's just have a read here. So the couple of members of the Liberal Party in Victoria who've signed this have actually asked for a special meeting to be convened. From what I'm seeing on X, that's going to be potentially on Friday. But at this meeting, the following motion of readmission of Moira Deeming MP will be moved, for which appropriate notice is now provided. It is requested that this motion be distributed to members by the Secretary along with the request to convene a special meeting. So at least these four members of the Liberal Party want to kind of get this pushed through fast, get Moira Deeming readmitted into the Liberal Party. Of course, when you look at how everything played out, she should never have been removed from that party for merely being a woman and speaking at a Let Women Speak rally. But everything's happened. Now these members want Moira Deeming back into the fold. And that might, of course, this might lead to a later on a leadership challenge against John Pesutto. I know one individual in his shadow cabinet also stepped down. So it should be very interesting times in the Liberal Party. We are going through, I guess, in our state, we're seeing, the disaster leadership of the Labor Party under Jacinta Allen. And there's many things we can talk about that. But of course, today we also had Tim Pallas, the Treasurer, resign. I want to play some coverage of Tim Pallas as well resigning and get some of your thoughts on that. I'm just going to jump on some of the comments. Someone asked, is Avi joining tonight? No, Avi is not joining tonight. So some of you guys might be pleased to not see Avi on this live stream. Your mic is very low. Okay. I don't know if that means the sound is low or turn my mic up. Okay. Give me a second. All right. How's that? How's my mic now? Is the sound better? Can you guys hear me better now? I'm going to get this fixed before I keep going. I turned it down a little bit because I thought the AC will come through, but maybe it's better now. It's a bit louder now, and I'll talk into the mic a little bit more. How's that? How's my voice sounding? It's better? Sounds much better, yeah. I still have to get a mic arm. You know those arms that can kind of come right in front of you and put the mic up here? That would be perfect, because I think this is how it's got to be. Then I can pretend to be someone on 3AW or something, a radio presenter, and talk with this deep voice. But right now it's down here, low, and I got to kind of hunch down a little bit, which makes it hard when I'm reading the comments. So I will get to that at some point. Now, so that's on more redeeming. So we had also Tim Pallas, and he's treasurer. I think he's been treasurer in Victoria under the Labor government for 10 years, I believe. And even before that, he was the shadow treasurer. So he's been in that kind of role of managing finances. And for the last 10 years, of course, some would argue destroying the state of Victoria with his management of our finances. He has, of course, resigned today at the end of the year, almost out of nowhere. Maybe it was always planned. Who knows? They're pretending like it just kind of happened. I'm just going to cut into this here. Sorry, guys. I get distracted by the comments. I hope you don't mind. I'll just take the show a bit slowly and respond to some of these comments. Someone's written here, deport Rukshan back to India. Now, David Harry Clean always is trolling me. Let me know if I should mute them. Now, the funny thing about this is I'm not from India, so this is the type of individuals that don't pay attention. So Tim Pallas has, of course, someone said use books under the mic. I am using a book under the mic. I don't actually read books. So let's just bring up the video of Tim Pallas resigning today, and I'll talk a little bit about his record and get some of the reactions we're getting from other people in our state in regards to his resignation. So I think he spelled his name with double two L's. Here we go. Let's just play that video. I think I shared it on my profile from Australians versus the Agenda. Let's just go to my profile.
Can I say that after 25 years in senior positions, either as Chief of Staff to the Premier Brax, or 14 years representing the seat of Werribee. A big shout out to the people of Werribee. I want to thank them so much. And 10 years as the longest standing treasurer, standalone treasurer for the state of Victoria. It has been a great honour and a privilege to have had the opportunity to serve. And I've already got my numbers wrong. It was 14 years as a minister, 18 years representing the people of Werribee. It has been, I think, the great honour and privilege of my life to have been able to serve the people of Werribee and the people of Victoria. I want to thank them so much. Can I say that after...
Anyway, so that's a part of his little speech that he gave after his resignation. Now, this is a common theme in Victoria, like these kind of rats jumping the ship after they've destroyed everything. We had, of course, the most famous rat, Premier Daniel Andrews. Some people might be offended at that use of that term, but Comrade Dan, as it were, promised famously that he would serve a full term if elected. the Premier of Victoria, and then he, ejected himself from that role, and many people were happy about that. But he leaves behind a legacy of destruction of the state of Victoria. And in the same vein, here, Tim Pallas, the Treasurer, leaves behind untold amounts of misery for Victorians that we ourselves, for generations to come, perhaps, will be trying to catch up with. So these guys always seem to just, do whatever they like and get away with it. And that is the life, perhaps, of a politician. They seem to be able to just skate free in Australia all the time without any consequences, without having to answer to anyone. And, it's just what it is. We just have to accept it, unfortunately. And the only thing that we can really do is, when it comes to the next election, send a strong message. But as I was talking about previously, the Liberal Party is, of course, also have their own issues, and it's not very clear that they could manage themselves when it comes to other aspects. Maybe financially, they could make some good changes in the state of Victoria, but they are almost like a Labor light currently under John Pesutto. So some of the other issues, they might actually, not improve so much the lives of Victorians. So that is my views on that. I don't want to get into too much detail about the legacy of Tim Pallas and what he's done. I think many people in the comments, I can see, it's flying off to the sunset. I'm sure this guy would land some cushy job afterwards, right, with his resume and the connections that he's made as a treasurer, of course, with many other financial institutions and so on. You see this happen all the time. It might not be straight away, but he'll be sitting on some boards and so on, and getting a cushy paycheck. So his life's great. It's up to the rest of us, especially struggling businesses in Victoria. It's very hard to run a business in Victoria, and the amount of taxes and levies that this guy has added during his term as the treasurer is enormous. So it's all on us. Yeah, some people are really enjoying the comments coming through. Someone's telling me not to feed the trolls. Look, I mean, the trolls add to the engagement, so I don't necessarily mind this kind of trolling of myself and criticism. Most of it's quite entertaining to me, so don't think I'm offended by some of the comments that I put up here. I just put it up for a bit of banter and a bit of fun. So yeah, the trolling, I'm not too impacted by it. If anyone else is impacted by some of the trolls, let me know their names in the comments if you see a troll going too hard, and I will mute them, at least for this particular show. Someone's written, why do we have to accept it? Do we really have to? I mean, look, necessarily, you don't have to necessarily accept what these people do, but there's nothing almost we can do to change the actions that they take when they're in government. They've been steamrolling a lot of these things through, right? So the only effect that we can have is really during election time, and I think a lot of that has to come down to the fact that we predominantly vote either Labor or Liberal, and having perhaps more of these kind of minor parties or independents, especially in the Senate, might be able to stop some of these things happening more down the future. Now, someone did say before, I saw no one in the ALP wants to have the role of the treasurer, and why would you? It's like the poison chalice. Like, why would you want to be the guy that's responsible for all that debt? Why would you want to have that, add your name to that legacy, especially if you're on Labor, leading into potentially an election? Why would you want that? I can't find that comment now. But they were suggesting David Limbrick from the Libertarians should take the role of the treasurer, and I don't know if he would want that poison chalice, to be completely honest. I'm just reading some of the comments here. Okay, I did see this comment here. This is not a news story that I was going to cover, but I did see it briefly that there was a cricket commentator, Usha something, and she said she called some player a primate or something, one of the Indian players, and she herself is also, I believe, Indian, referring to him as the most valuable primate or something like this. And someone was asking, can it be defined as a racial slur? I think it just goes to that, obviously, that language, the culture, kind of the world that we're in, especially for these type of individuals who live and die by that type of wokeism. Australian cricket is very woke over the last couple of years. So I think for them, it's a point of contention when these type of comments are made, and that's why they call these things out. I don't think it's a massive story. And of course, if a white individual I'm just being completely honest here. If she wasn't Indian and she was a white commentator, right? If Hayden or one of the other commentators, I don't know who they are. I don't really watch the cricket anymore. It's so boring. But if they had said something like that about an Indian player, yes, there would be like headlines, and maybe even the Indian press would be losing their mind. But I think because of her background, it hasn't been that much of an explosive story, but it's been dealt with. I like this comment. I'm just going to put this comment up here. This is probably very, very true. Rukshan, so nice hearing your voice, so calming compared to Avi. That's not a hard feat to achieve, to be calming compared to Avi Yemeni. It's very simple. Mr. Debt. All right, guys. So next story that I want to cover, I'll just pull that up, and that is around these drones which are showing up in different states in the US. One particular state, I'll bring up the story first, and I might even bring up this particular segment from MSNBC of them interviewing a drone operator, just to kind of give a bit of background context, and then go through an article on the New York Post that gives a bit more context and share some of my thoughts with you around that. So let's get this rolling.
We have more video that you sent us of you, in fact, trying to launch a drone, and it was right near an airport. So tell us what happened there and why it's so noteworthy.
Okay, so we got reports last night that there was a lot of drone activity in the East Hanover area, which backs up to Morristown Airport and all that vicinity. So we head out there, we set up in a parking lot about a quarter mile away from the airport, and I'm trying to get flight clearance to take the drone up and see what this other drone is, and I cannot. Restricted, I tried to bypass it. At one point, it even asked for my phone number, and I said, no, I think we're good at this point.
Okay, now hang on. When you say looking for flight clearance, how does that work? I mean, are you literally talking with a control tower, or what are you doing?
So there's an app that you use to connect to the drone. When it's time, when you want to fly, you press a button, and what it does is it looks for flight clearance or restrictions. And what happened was there was a restriction in that area, and I couldn't get up.
This is actually my first time. I saved this, I bookmarked this because I thought this would be interesting. But now I just think this guy's an idiot. I actually fly drones as well. And even in Australia, if you try to launch a drone near an airport, especially on these DJI, these prosumer or commercial drones that people use, it will come up with a warning telling you that you're in a restricted area. You'll have to sometimes put your phone number in, and you have to bypass it. So whatever this guy's explaining, I'm sorry for sharing this video. I thought this would be interesting, but he's just saying that he couldn't take his drone up during near an airport. So I don't think it's actually a major thing, but I'll play the end till the end of it, see if there's anything else revealing.
But there were drones in the air that weren't following the restriction. Now, we verify everything above us with flight radar.
Okay, so that might be what he's saying. Like, there were other drones in the area that were flying. And again, that is purely down to the software built into the DJI, which restricts it. So if you've done software updates on your DJI drones, when it gets to near certain restricted areas, it will ask you to put a number in, verify yourself before you can take off.
Radar, so we can tell if it's an airplane or if it's not. None of the things that we go after are on flight radar.
Okay, so what we're looking at, this device notwithstanding, this control for your drone, if drones are getting into areas without clearance by the FAA, is it possible they figured out some kind of a technology to keep their drones from being jammed and or losing power?
Absolutely, absolutely. I don't know if you're aware, last week or so, 2 weeks when this started, I tried to take my drone over Picatinny Arsenal to follow a drone that was just hovering over there. And as I got closer, my drone lost power, spun out, and the battery died, and it went down. But the other drone remained sitting in the air, unaffected.
Why? What do you think?
No.
I don't know. I feel like this is an MSNBC beat up with some dude with a crappy DJI drone. Look, the drone story is quite interesting. It's remarkable because the fact that it seems like, I mean, from all the commentary and the press conferences I've seen, notwithstanding these kind of news stories, it seems as if the government, the Pentagon, knows about what's going on with these drones, but they're not being very clear about it. At least they haven't been forthcoming at the very start. So it's added to this layer of I guess, conspiracy and talks of aliens and what are these drones and, why is no one doing anything about it? Of course, we had Donald Trump saying to shoot the drones down. What's going on? It's ridiculous. And it really just feels like it's either a military technology that's being tested, it's either a commercial technology that's being tested with the approvals, and for some reason, because of whatever it is, it's being kept secret because they might have signed some sort of deal with the government to be able to do this kind of testing. Now, some people have other types of theories that these drones are actually being used by the government to search for certain things or a radioactive activity. I've heard many different things about the drones, so I might pull up a story from the New York Post and we'll go through a list of the things that people are saying. The conspiracies, let's say. I mean, one of them could be true, one of them could not be. I'm not sure, but let's just go through it. All right, let me pull this up. Joe Rogan says he's genuinely concerned about drone sightings after the new theory emerges. Podcast king Joe Rogan said the mysterious drones that have buzzed around the tri-state have left him genuinely concerned Sunday after watching a video that floated an unverified theory about the unnamed device sniffing out harmful substances. John Ferguson, the CEO of a remote aircraft systems company in Kansas, claimed that in a drawn-out TikTok video on Saturday, the drones are attempting to smell either a gas leak, radioactive material, or something else on the ground. The only reason why you would ever fly an unmanned aircraft at night is if you're looking for something, Ferguson said in the clip, noting he doesn't believe the drones are nefarious. So my belief is they're trying to smell something on the ground, gas leaks, radioactive material, whatever, the CEO said. Ferguson added that the theory was his best guess based on his expertise and just opinion on the drone mystery. The script, the East Coast, had admitted, I have not bounced this off anybody. So if you think it's bullshit, whatever, that's cool. I don't want to spread misinformation, as we know that there's a lot of that going around, he said on TikTok video. But this theory resonated with many online, including Rogan, who offered his 2 cents on the drones that have unnerved New Jersey and New York residents for weeks. The popular podcast host called the claims from the US government sus after White House National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said the drones were not a public safety concern and many of the reported sightings are actually manned aircraft. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alexander Mayorkas also downplayed concerns about the drones on Sunday, claiming part of the drone sightings are based on relaxed regulations that allow the devices to fly at night. Some of these drone sightings are in fact drones, he said. Some are manned aircraft that are commonly mistaken for drones, and we do see duplicate reporting. I won't read any further, but you can see, like, I think the whole issue here is that it wasn't clear from the start, and there's been a lot of mystery added to this story. It's a very, interesting story that there might be drones flying over a city. Initially, it was reported there was a mothership and there were other drones coming out of it, and they were saying it was the Iranians and all sorts of things. So I'm gonna just go through some of your comments and pull up anything that's interesting. Someone said how Russia hasn't been blamed is beyond. They are government drones. It's so dumb. I mean, look, definitely the government knows about those drones. It would not take too much information or time for them to actually come to the bottom of it, or they would have known beforehand. You would seeing around the world drone technology actually evolving very fast. So I follow a lot of the technological news, and in terms of drone deliveries, these companies like Amazon and so on using drones to actually fly over people's backyards, drop packages. There's testing going on all the time. So it could be something like that, a new technology, but it also could be the other thing. I think there's no clarity around it. Someone here wrote, yeah, Benny Johnson had a whistleblower on whose take is to do with nuclear warheads. When there is a vacuum of information and the information being communicated by the government is not very clear, this is generally what happens. Yeah, good idea though to launch a drone to see what the other drones are doing. Yeah, I mean it's a really good idea. I actually thought that's the first thing that came to my mind when I heard about all these drone sightings. Why hasn't anyone just taken their commercial drone or their prosumer drone and flown it up and just gone near these drones and see what would happen? And perhaps this is the best comment. It's all a distraction. I mean, yeah, it could be a distraction. Definitely. I think there's a bit of worry about in the air because we're about less than almost a month, less than a month. Is it 16th? When's the inauguration? 20th of Jan. So we're not that far away from Trump being inaugurated as the 47th president of the USA. So there's a bit of people are a bit nervous that the deep state or these kind of actors, perhaps the Democrats, perhaps the Bidens and the Obamas might, probably not Biden, he's not all there, the Obamas, who knows, have some sort of plan to destabilize the US. And of course, that destabilizes the rest of us. And that is why we need to know about these drones. So, yeah, so this person's written, one dude said he did that and his drone's battery dropped off instantly. I mean, if that's true, and there's some sort of technology within those drones that dissipates another battery, I don't think so. There could be technology that actually brings drones down. So a lot of security companies work on this type of technology where they can actually control other drones. Like, if someone flies a drone into a restricted airspace, they can then use a device, bring that drone down. So there's devices like that that can be used. And someone's written, the only place we would have the same thing here is at Pine Gap. Yeah, look, I mean, if this wouldn't be a story if these people were doing a test, if this is some sort of testing that they're doing in a military area or Area 51 or something like this in the US, right? But I think that it's been spotted by people on residential streets or in New Jersey, New York. So that's the worry and the concern of individuals, that there was no clarity around this. And I'm not going to play all the press conferences, but if you watch the press conference from the Pentagon, the individual that gave it, some lady called Singh, it was a very suspicious, shady press conference from the Pentagon. Like, they would not confirm or deny. It was just weird. So that is why. Enough on the drone story. So I was going to come to that a bit later, but I jumped to it because someone was asking about it in the comments. The next story that I want to talk to you guys about is to do with Australia Day. So we're going to jump back to Australia. And, I've talked about Australia Day before. We talk about Australia Day, towards this time of the year all the time because there's people in this country that, frankly, hate Australia. And there's government officials, there's people in political parties, of course. I would say the Labor Party is amongst that in the state of Victoria, especially, that want to cancel Australia Day. So they will take any opportunity that they can. Now, a couple of years ago, Daniel Andrews had the perfect cover and opportunity to cancel Australia Day. And he took that at the time, and no one was, wiser because, of course, it was during COVID. And, there were people who would have not really looked into that because, we can't have these mass gatherings during the time of COVID, even though we could have, people marching for George Floyd and so on. We couldn't have an Australia Day parade, right? It's a different thing. It's one thing to march for the BLM during that time, but, you can't march for your nation, of course. You got to be, you got to protect yourself. So Australia Day was cancelled during the COVID times, the parade, at least. And that's been an ongoing theme in Victoria, the cancelling the Australia Day parade. Now, recently, of course, we've had the Jacinta Allen in Victoria come out and just flat out cancel Australia Day parades going forward. So it's scrapped for good. Now, this is a title from the Daily Mail. It says, huge Australia Day parade is scrapped for good in Melbourne as another controversial change is made. Now, no doubt there will, of course, be an Invasion Day rally. So those things, of course, will happen. And there will be all types of other celebrations that will happen in our state for different minorities and different groups that will proudly celebrate these things. But, of course, celebrating Australia and having a march for Australia is a no-no, at least in the state of Victoria. And this is Nathan Livingston, Milk Bar TV. If you're not following him on X, I do recommend you follow him. He had a great post on this, if I can bring it up. He said, let's bring it up. Melbourne has cancelled the Australia Day parade for good. Meanwhile, Melbourne continues with the Midsummer Pride goes on. Only 5.7% of Victorians identify as LGBTQIA+, despite violent scenes last year, as around 50 protesters threw paint bombs and abused police as they attempted to march in the parade. So we did have some dramas during the Midsummer Pride parade, but of course that will go ahead because it's important to appease the 5.7% of the population that identify as that particular persuasion. Chinese New Year parade, despite China's well-documented human rights abuses, notably against the Uyghur population, which the Office of the UN High Commission for Human Rights says may constitute international crimes, in particular crimes against humanity. Well, of course, Chinese New Year celebrations will go ahead, will no doubt don all types of things around Chinatown and have a big scene about it, of course, in Victoria. Just recently, hospitality company Australia Venue Company announced it wouldn't ban Australia Day festivities in their 200 plus venues. They backflipped the decision after receiving sizable backlash, saying, "We sincerely regret that our purpose is to reinforce community in our venues, not divide it. It is not for us to tell anyone whether or how to celebrate Australia Day." Now, some of you might be saying, well, Australia Day is not cancelled. And yes, it's not cancelled. We can ourselves, of course, celebrate this great country. And I think we should celebrate Australia every day, not just a particular day. But it's always nice to have a day that we commemorate something of significance. And almost every country around the world has some type of patriotic day where they celebrate the fact that that country exists. And many countries are born out of different types of conflicts or circumstances and things. And it's not always pretty, but those things are still celebrated. I think the 4th of July in the US and some of those things are very similar to that. So having Australia Day, of course, there are people that are completely against it, and you will see them no doubt marching on their so-called invasion day. But the government here has jumped in and cancelled something that, I think many people expect government to be involved in, promoting the country, right? Promoting Australia and having a day for people to actually enjoy Australian culture. But we're slowly losing that. I think the identity of Australia is changing. Now, I know previously when I've seen Australia Day parades, it's been different multicultural groups marching, and you've had all these kind of different people representing what Australia means to them, and that's fine. That is kind of the face of Victoria, of Melbourne. If you look, there's lots of different cultures, and everyone's showing their pride in the fact that they're Australian. So that was nice, I guess. But all of that is going because now, the whole thing is now we can't have anything to do with Australia Day because it's very controversial. But if you actually look at the fact that during the Voice to Parliament, Australians predominantly voted against enshrining that type of racism into our country. Of course, I believe 60-something% of Australians actually support Australia Day. So if you look at just the pure numbers, why would the government go ahead and do this? But, they will go ahead and get this done when they can. I think Avi Yemeni might be watching. Good day, Rukshan, Rebel News Australia. You can check out Avi's video as well. He did a piece to camera on Australia Day, sharing his views. And at the end of it, he has a petition that you guys can sign as well. Now, I don't think the government will backflip on this. I completely believe that there's not enough incentive for them. They don't really care. It's really up to the, if the opposition wants to say that if they come into power, they will reinstate it. But we're talking again about the Liberal Party, who are Labor light, and they might be terrified to say something like that in case they don't get votes from, people who are, maybe on the left or left leaning. So it's interesting to see how politicized something as simple as celebrating your country has become today. I'm totally against it. Let's just check out some of your comments. We always celebrate Australia Day. That's right. Why would you not want Australia Day with gorgeous girls in bikinis? Well, we are living in a time and a world where it's even offensive to define what a girl is or what a woman is. So that might be a part of the problem we are facing as a society in the West, where we're losing our identity, we're losing our values, we're losing things that make this country great. I'll just read this comment. Australia Day to celebrate and honour our diggers is the third Sunday of July, 26 Jan 1910, entry into force the rules of war of land of the Commonwealth of Australia. That's the comment from Z Clowns. Some comments against Paul Keating here. Yeah, this goes into a broader debate. Of course, there was a great comment by the IPA saying that the flag is the only flag that represents all Australians. And this is, of course, based on the comments made by opposition leader Peter Dutton, that's saying that when he's Prime Minister, he will only stand in front of when he's doing an official talk to the, live to the camera, or just, meeting dignitaries, whatever it is, he will stand only in front of the Australian flags. So just one flag. Right now we have the Australian flag, the Torres Strait Islander flag, the Aboriginal flag, and sometimes you will have these press conferences where you don't see an Australian flag at all, and it will just be these other two flags. And what Madeline is saying is correct. The Australian flags represents everyone, all of us. It's got the Union Jack, the history of Australia. It's got the Southern Cross, which is, always been there since the beginning of time. It represents all of us who have, from different parts of the world, who call Australia home today. It's more inclusive than any other flag. It's more inclusive than the Aboriginal flag, as far as I can, surmise from my interpretation of what that represents. It's more inclusive than the Torres Strait Islander flag. These are flags designated towards particular groups of people in society. Of course, as a country, we should have one flag that represents us all. And as of right now, the Union Jack, the blue and the white Australian flag with the red Union Jack, it's a beautiful flag. And I'm very proud to be an Australian and to stand with that flag and be that the only flag that represents Australia. I would be very happy with that as well. Someone is saying, glad I don't live in Victoria. Yeah, look, Victoria is a basket case. A lot of the things that are happening in Victoria, I know people in different states are quite comfortable right now saying that these things won't come there, but they're coming. I think Victoria is like, if you look at Australia in the world, a lot of things that are happening when it comes to, what the WEF might want to happen around the world happens in countries like Australia and New Zealand first. And then if you look at that even, under a microscope even further, it happens in states like Victoria first, and then it kind of spreads out. So that's what we're seeing. Yeah, Angie's written, shaming Australians seems to be the in thing. Exactly. It's quite ridiculous. I've traveled to many places around the world, and you don't really get this in most parts of the world. They're very proud and patriotic, and they teach that patriotism as well. And people actually really love their countries, and they might disagree on certain political arguments. You see this in the US. You see the elections, they're very hard fought over, but they actually, the flag, there is a unification there. I know there's the far left Antifa type people, and we've even recently seen some of the pro-Palestinian groups burn the American flag. There's always groups like that because they claim freedom of speech, and to be able to burn the flag is like a part of their rights that people have died for, to actually be burned the flag. And whatever people might have an opinion on that, I don't necessarily think that's a good thing. But yeah, in Australia, for some reason, it just always comes down to the fact that we can slowly erase things about this country. We can, change words in the national anthem. We can quickly, get rid of all these things and just deny the history of this country. And it's crazy. Like, the history is always going to be good and bad. That's literally history. Like, it's not just a rosy picture. We can't have this perfect history that people want to have. Some parts of history is bad, but that's actually what makes a country like Australia great. This country is only about 200 something years old, right? Look at these despot countries you're seeing in the Middle East, thousands of years old, thousands of years of history. And, people are running away because they can't live there, because they can't live amongst themselves. They can't live together. These are failed states and failed nations. And you have a country like Australia that's like 200 years old. We have all this great infrastructure. We have all these wonderful, amazing things that we've built and wonderful achievements that we've had as a country. And somehow these people want you to believe that this is a bad country, right? These people have completely lost the plot. So I ignore them. And speaking as a migrant, I think many migrants actually ignore this as well. Many of them love Australia, even though they try now very hard to teach them to hate this country. Hopefully, more people that have come to this country and, really taken the benefits of this country will actually stand up for things like the flag and the future of this country and its history. Comment here from Daniel. In terms of history, Australia has a pretty good record. I definitely agree. So I am all against this type of thing. So let's just catch up on some of the comments while I bring up my next story. I'll read Lenny Time. All Aussies can stand together under three flags: the Australian flag, the Aboriginal flag, and the Eureka flag. got one of our watchers from Canada, I believe. So sending respect from Canada. Yours is one of the only 10 voices I actually listen to. Please keep going. And yeah, look, Canada is very much like Australia in the decline of our identities. Justin Trudeau has done a disastrous job. Of course, he's been mocked by Donald Trump at the moment, who says that they should annex Canada, make it into the 51st or 52nd state of the US, and make Trudeau the governor. So thanks for watching from Canada. Really appreciate it. I got a, what is this here? Super chat. Yeah, thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. I don't know how Australia became full on communist. I believe that's the comment. Yeah, I mean, these things happen slowly. And we're just seeing, I think, decades of work in terms of degrading this country into this state that we're finding ourselves in. I think many institutions have been infiltrated. We have these kind of, I'd like to call them, there's many different groups that you can assign to this, and I don't want to get into like political theory, but these left-wing lunatics, which come from lots of different groups, and you're seeing them, they pop up for every single issue. I remember during, for instance, the COVID era, we had these individuals protesting in support of Pfizer and things like this, right? They're just these modern day activists, and they've put themselves into everything, right? And the worrying part is they're a part of the university lecturer class. They're a part of the elite that are teaching our children as well, if you want to look at it that way. And of course, the political class, you have a lot of people in politics in Australia, and many of them you're finding don't really have real world life experiences in running a business or owning a farm. There's a few, of course, that are doing that, but most of them are graduates of a law degree or something like this. And I'm not knocking lawyers or anything like this, but their connection to the country is very different. And I think that's what you're finding. If you go back a few generations, you'll find people who are more a part of the community, or people who ended up in leadership positions. You find that, of course, with smaller communities, there's more of a connection to the identity and, what other people around you might feel that identity is as well. So we've lost a lot of that, and we are importing a lot of ideologies. We seem to copy a lot of stuff, a lot of the bad stuff from the far left lunatics in the US. And it's a shame, really. I'll just let the comments keep going, guys. Let me just bring up my last story for the day. We're almost coming up to 9:30, so I'd normally do a 1-hour show. I'll see what else I saved to go through with you guys. Bear with me. Speaking of drones, sorry, I just got to jump back to this. Donald Trump is so funny. He's so hilarious. This is Chris Christie. This is like a governor of a state, and he also, of course, ran as a presidential type, for the Republican nomination of in 2016 against Trump. And it's just so funny that Trump put this photo up. Which other world leader would put up a photo when there's a debate going around drones and aliens and invasions of one of his, this is someone, I believe this guy also served in his team, but for whatever reason he has falling out with him. And he's always making fun of him. And just to put the drones, these are the drones, these DJI drones with the Macca's bags, and they're delivering it to Chris Christie, of course, who is a bit on the heftier side of things. That might explain what's happening with the drones. So look, Donald Trump, he is good value. If you are not following Donald Trump he's on all the platforms, I believe, at least on one of the main ones. So you can find him on IG. He posts a lot of this kind of funny stuff on IG, on X, of course, and on Truth Social. He's always posting these funny memes. So I would love if we had leaders in Australia, for instance, that had a sense of humor. But what we got with Albanese was a guy that was trying to ban memes. When it's just so funny. And anyway, I got distracted. Let me just leave that on the screen. Actually, I can't. Let me just go back to the comments while I look for the story that I was actually going to cover today. All right, guys, I'm just going to end with this headline from December. 19th, 2023, someone posted this, but I just thought it was really funny. Just the way that these scientists do these type of studies. Humans may be fueling global warming by breathing. New study. They would love nothing more than to stop us from breathing, it sounds like. This is Left Wing, of course, madness. Thanks, guys, for joining me on this episode of Rukshan on X. If you want me to do any live streams of any kind of events coming up or protests, please, you can shoot me an email at realrukshan@gmail.com, and I can see if I'm available that day to cover that event. You can also reach out to me on social media, but generally email is the best way for any kind of press events that might be happening. And if I do have time, I will try to live stream those events. Now, as far as following me, you can find me on X at The Real Rukshan. You can find me on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, and at my website, www.realrukshan.com. My preferred platform is, of course, X. I'm a big fan of X. You can find me there. I have crossed over. Apparently, Avi Yemeni thinks it's because of him, but I don't think so. I was always destined to get to 100K at some point slowly. So I have crossed over 100K followers. So if you're watching on X and wherever you're watching and you follow me on X, thank you. These are just numbers, of course, but it's always nice to have a round number, and a lot of work goes into doing what I do. So to have people following and supporting my work, that's always very special. So I do appreciate it. Avi did want $1,000 apparently, because he did a post saying, "Hey guys, Rukshan needs 200 more people to follow him, and if he does that, he'll give me $1,000." But I didn't do that. I offered him 1,000 rupees instead. So I think that's a good deal. What do you guys think? Thanks, Vince. Thanks for subbing. So that was on YouTube. Thank you so much. In terms of the regularity of these shows, I'm thinking Mondays around this time, 8:30 p.m. to 9:30. Tuesdays, I'm still not sure if I should do it before the Avi Yemeni report, which starts at, I think, 7 p.m. So 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Wednesdays again, either in the morning or the night. I'm still trying to figure out. And I think this is a good time to figure it out because we're going into the holiday period with Christmas. So by the start of next year, I will have a proper schedule down, so you guys will know when these shows will be happening. And there is also plans to bring people on as a guest on these shows, so I can actually go through their X. That's really what I want to do. I want to go through their X and see what they've been sharing and ask them about what that news is all about. Yep, some people are saying Merry Christmas to you and yours. Hope to catch up in the new year. That's right. I'll be streaming, all throughout. Probably not Christmas Day and Christmas Eve. I'm going to spend some time with family, but otherwise I enjoy this format, and I really love the comments that keep coming up. So thanks so much for participating in it, and I hope everyone's enjoying this show. Thanks, guys. See you all next time on Rukshan on X.